Hello, welcome to It Works For Me, the podcast where we explore the habits and practices that lead to a happier, more successful life. I'm your host, Justin Kelly, and today we're diving into a topic that's simple, yet incredibly powerful, and that is punctuality. For me, being on time isn't just about making it to meetings or appointments, it's about peace of mind. I've learned that leaving early helps me avoid the anxiety of rushing, and it allows me to show up calm and focused, but it's more than just personal stress relief. Being punctual is a way to show respect and care for others. It communicates your time is valuable, and that mindset fosters positive relationships and keeps me grounded in a positive state of mind. Today, I have with me a special guest joining us, Mayor Scott Willis of Westfield, Indiana. Mayor Willis isn't just a leader in our community. He's someone who truly understands the power of discipline and punctuality. As a Marine colonel and an active member of our community, his commitment to service is remarkable. He serves on the Westfield Public Library Board, the Student Impact Board, and the YMCA Steering Committee. He's also part of the President's Council for Purdue University and is deeply involved in multiple veteran organizations. And Scott, with such a full plate of responsibilities, I don't understand how you have the time to do everything that you do. So I'm excited to learn from you how you get all of these things done and manage your time as effectively as you do.
Yeah, and some of those boards I've actually shed since I became mayor.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
My calendar may be the simplest it's been in my entire life in terms of being pulled in a million different directions. But I usually run 100 miles an hour in 100 different directions. And I kind of thrive in that environment.
And so what was I guess before becoming mayor, then how did you manage all of those different aspects of your life that you were kind of taking on all at the same time?
Yeah, so I own two businesses. I was in the Marine Corps Reserves, and in my last 3 or 4 years in the Marines, I was traveling. I was gone 2 out of every 4 weeks, traveling across the country. I was on Westfield City Council. I was on all those boards that you were talking about. Again, I had a lot of coals in the fire, and it's really important when you're juggling that many balls at once that you understand what's important at that moment in time and what's not. You don't need to have all of that running through your brain at the same time. So compartmentalizing, sitting down and focusing on whatever the task at hand is at that moment in time and then moving on, disconnecting and moving on was certainly critical to be able to juggle all those balls.
And for sure, I would assume I have some military relatives. Did that shape your view on being on time and how that kind of stuff works? Did that get drilled into you kind of?
It did. Part of me, I'm very OCD. I'm very disciplined. The Marine Corps certainly shaped a lot of that, but it was kind of in my DNA before joining the Marines. Marines just took it to a whole new level. But yeah, in the Marine Corps, if you're 5 minutes early, you're late. Mm-hmm. And that was bred into us very early in my career. And so I've always prided myself in making sure that I'm on time, quite frankly, that I'm early. And you hit the nail on the head, just the peace of mind of not panicking as you're screeching across town trying to get somewhere because you know you're late. That's stress and anxiety that nobody needs in their life, especially today. So planning ahead and being disciplined. I live off my calendar. Quite frankly, it controls my life. If you're not on my calendar, you're not on my calendar for the day. I mean, I don't deviate from. I don't have any bandwidth to adjust midstream in the middle of the day. So I try to stay very disciplined and use the tools at my disposal to keep me on track.
I love the if you're not 5 minutes early or late, because that's exactly, I mean, I might get some crap from my wife because there are times that I'm late for things that I think maybe not as important, maybe some weekend events and things like that. But what I would like to also ask you is I'm in a leadership role with work. How do you think with the punctuality, being on time, how do you think that impacts your leadership or impacts, I guess, the view of you as a leader, especially now that you're, mayor of Westfield?
Well, certainly showing up late for a meeting, you've just sent a signal to the person that they're not as important as you are. And that's not a message you want to send to anybody, especially in a leadership role, where you're asking people to respect you, to follow your vision. To do that, you have to give them the respect back. And showing up late for a meeting that they've carved out their time for is incredibly disrespectful, quite frankly. It just sends a horrible message. And so I've always tried to keep that in mind, that if I'm committed to a meeting, if I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there and show them respect and be ready when the meeting starts. Be focused on whatever you're discussing at that moment in time, and then moving on to the next. As mayor, I mean, you look at my calendar right now. If you ask to get 20 minutes on my calendar, we're 3-4 weeks out. I literally go meeting to meeting to meeting, and some of those require me to get in the car and travel. So I don't let people run over for me, quite frankly. I give you the time we've set aside. I'll be incredibly focused during that meeting, and then I'm out.
I completely appreciate that. And another thing that I kind of wanted to get out there is the way that I kind of treat my leadership presence with work and things like that, and just professionally, is nobody that reports to me will tell you different. I don't expect you to do anything that I wouldn't do. So, and so like, for example, if a toilet backs up at one of our offices and everybody's busy with taking care of patients, I'm going to go fix that. I'm either going to clean it, do what I need to do, figure out how to get the right people out there to fix it, whatever it is that's needed. Because if I'm not there because I'm visiting another site, people have seen me do that. They know that they would step up and do that themselves. So I don't ever ask somebody to do something without them expecting me to do it as well. So
yeah, it's leading by example, right? It's leading from the front. And at the end of the day, it's really hard for you to hold your employees accountable to behaviors that you're not exuding yourself.
Exactly.
And I would never I don't accept as mayor, people show up to my meetings late. I don't have the time I don't have the time to spend 10 minutes waiting on you to show up so we can be productive. It sets my entire calendar off for the rest of the day. So I demand you're there on time and ready to go. And I will give you that same respect back and being ready and being there on time as well.
And I think that just sets a great precedent for future events, meetings, anything like that. And then again, back to the original kind of through line of this podcast, those people will be less stressed if they are on time or early.
That's right.
So kind of switching gears, do you have any memorable experience where maybe you were on time and how it may have impacted your day or your career or your personal life?
Unfortunately, I've got a few. The one here most recently I remember is I was supposed to be down at the State House to meet with the Speaker of the House, Speaker Houston. And it was something that I was trying to push to get it on the legislative agenda for this session. I asked for it. He carved out time. It's hard to get on my calendar. It's even harder to get on his.
Yeah, I could imagine.
And for whatever reason, it didn't get on my calendar. I don't know if my admin deleted it or something happened. It wasn't on my calendar. And I get a call from him. Hey, where are you at? You going to be here for this meeting? I'm like, holy cow, I'm in Westfield. I can't get there in an hour, let alone now. Mm-hmm. And talk about embarrassing. I mean, you're asking for a favor and you don't show up. Bad day. And luckily he was gracious enough to give me another shot at it. And I assured you I was there very early for that meeting. But yeah, it leaves that sick feeling in your stomach. Like, wow, I just disrespected somebody that I need to get things accomplished for our residents and our community. It's not a good feeling.
Of course. And just for like, I want to share some of my experiences, my background, I was not always somebody that was on time. That was something that was definitely learned, growing up in high school, college. I was definitely the kind of person I kind of maybe took after my mom, and she may not appreciate this if she's listening right now, but my mom's the kind of person that you tell her to be there an hour early because you want her to be there on time. That was the way I was. People expected that. And I think a big part of my growth professionally and just in my life in general is probably the last 4 or 5 years, just really committing to improving myself and kind of identifying those areas that are causing me that anxiety and that stress. Because again, this podcast was designed and the idea behind it came from, I'm a generally optimistic, happy person. What do I do? And it's actually been a decent amount of work. It's not all just automatic things that I've just kind of figured out or do subconsciously. The being on time is something that I've consciously had to work at. And I will also say, prior to GPS being on all of our phones and in all of our cars, that was another reason. I was always terrible with directions. So if I would get lost or if I was late, it was probably because I took a wrong turn going the wrong way. So that's one of the reasons that I really focused on doing this, to improve myself. And also when it comes to a recent instance of being late, it's typically, I don't have a specific instance, but I know a lot of the times it's what frustrates my wife is the weekends I look at as relaxing time. And if we have to be somewhere to hang out with friends, there will be times that I might move a little bit slower, and that's all on me. And then she has all the right in the world to be upset with me about those times. But she's very forgiving, and she's a great woman. So there's nothing else other than that I can say. Um, with being on time and the struggle that some people might have, what kind of advice would you give? I know it's pretty simple and it's a pretty easy one with just saying leave earlier to get somewhere, or plan your day. What are some advice or some pieces of advice that you might have for somebody if they struggle with that on a regular basis?
Yeah, this little thing right here, I think most of us have these now, right?
Yep.
I don't know anybody doesn't have an iPhone on them
Mhm.
or some kind of a cell phone on them at any given time. And there's a little thing called alarms. And when I go into meetings and I know I'm meeting with somebody that maybe the conversation's intense, or I know I've got a talker that typically meetings run late when I'm with that person, I'll set my alarm. If I know I have to be done at 1:00 for my next meeting, I'll set it 15 minutes out and I'll let it purposely go off. And then when they hear that alarm, I'm going to say, I'm sorry. I set my alarm to make sure I don't disrespect the next meeting. We've got 15 minutes. Let's get back on track, or, hey, let's get this thing wrapped up because I got a hard stop. And then usually before the meeting starts, I let them know, hey, I'm setting my alarm. Here's why. I've got a very tight schedule today. No disrespect. I'm going to give you a full hour, but this keeps me on track. And I just set the expectation up front. And that calendar, that alarm lets me know when I'm getting into that danger zone of running late. And it just,
That
and then it's more respectful to say, hey, we got 15 minutes. Let's get this wrapped up. Then you say in the middle of the conversation, hey, I got to go. Leave all those loose ends. And then, now you're looking at maybe rescheduling or adding complexity to your calendar.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And that alone, just the communication that you have right there, that sets the tone and sets the expectation, which is a big thing that a few of my friends have talked about, because we all worked together previously at another job, but now we're all kind of moved off into our other leadership roles, and that's a big thing, is setting that expectation and communicating that, because it's not like you said, you're not stopping and saying, hey, I'm done, we got to go. You've communicated at the beginning, and you also have that notification when it goes off to kind of wrap things up. So I love that you brought that up, because that is what I use with my phone a lot of the times when it comes to my personal life. If, for example, I have an alarm every evening at 7 p.m. because our daughters we start bedtime routine at 7:30, but I have it go off at 7 because I like to do some educational things with them, whether it's going through some flashcards like with words or numbers or letters or shapes or objects. I like to do that with them for about 30 minutes before bed, because then they're not on their iPad or doing something that, isn't or isn't really calming them down for bed at all. And I think that's awesome, because I have all through the day different alarms. I have a 369 journal that I use to write out my goals and my things that I would like to manifest. I know manifestation seems hokey to some people, but manifestation for me works because of just keeping those goals at the forefront of your mind. And so three times a day, 6 times a day, and 9 times a day, you write out your main goal of what you're trying to manifest. So I like that you brought that up, because that's something that I do.
Well,
So,
and not to mention, there's nothing worse than sitting in a meeting and have somebody continue to do this, right?
mhm.
Looking at their watch like, hey, I need to wrap this up, or I'm not engrossed in what you're saying. I'm not focused on you as a person. That gives you the comfort of knowing that alarm's going to go off. You don't have to look at your clock. You don't have to worry about it. When it goes off, it goes off. And so I just find there's nothing that makes me more angry sitting in a meeting watching people look at their watch all the time. I'm like, hey,
Yep,
focus on what we're trying to get done.
exactly, because they're not listening.
I know they're not
And
listening. They're thinking about the next meeting, and that's wrong.
yep, and
That gives you
the
that
flips, yeah, the flip side of that, with our technology and our phones, do you think that might be also a detractor to being on time? So the fact that people may be scrolling, or technology might kind of contribute to them being late.
Yeah, I mean, you get into that black hole watching the reels on your phone, Facebook or Instagram, and man, the time just disappears on you. And I'm bad at that. Sometimes I get up in the morning and I got to get my fix of reels before I go to work, before I get serious about getting ready. And next time I look at my watch, I'm like, holy cow, and I've just I got 10 minutes left to get ready and I'm behind. So I caution, I try to just not get on my cell phone to Facebook or whatever you do in social media till the end of the day when I crawl into bed. And I know time is not as important, but it's a black hole you got to avoid. There's nothing good that happens on social media. Mentally, there's nothing good that happens on social media. And we become a society attached to that. And it's unfortunate because I think it has a lot to do with depression our kids are feeling, anxiety. Ignorance is bliss.
Yep.
And we were ignorant growing up because we weren't attached to a phone. We didn't know what our buddies were doing. You know, I didn't have to scroll and see my buddy was hanging out with my other buddy and I didn't get invited.
Right.
You know, that just didn't have that. And I think it creates more problems than it does advantages.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely a ton of great things. There's, for example, seeing the video, the short clip and reel of yourself being on a podcast, just recently talking about Live Golf coming to Westfield. I get a lot of really cool updates. I think it's also about your algorithm and what you do focus on, because I do get a lot more Westfield updates, and I very much appreciate seeing that. I feel like I've tailored my LinkedIn and Facebook to show me a lot of face or Westfield things. So there is some positives, but I also do agree wholeheartedly that you do catch yourself just you'll look up and 30 minutes or an hour has gone by and all you've done is scrolled through videos. The other point that I was curious about is what happens a lot with me work-wise is very rarely do we all start on time with our teams meetings. And I think also with technology, it's too easy for somebody just to text you and say, hey, I'm running about 5 minutes late, or, this meeting's running long. How do you think, is there a way to navigate that in the workplace? Because, a lot of the times these meetings are with people that are above me. I've always heard the military has a saying of like leading up kind of thing, or whatever that, I don't know if that's the right term, but essentially, what are your thoughts on that? If that's it, if that's something that you can navigate, or you just kind of go with it?
Well, if it's not your meeting and it's a layer or two up from your level, you don't really have a lot of options, do you? You just got to kind of grin and bear it, because other people have control or power. If you are in charge and you can control the environment, in the Marine Corps, you don't walk into a door late. If the door is closed and the meeting has started, you're no longer invited. You just don't come in, right? Nothing worse than walking into a meeting, especially when it's not your meeting and you disrespect the general because you were 5 minutes late. I mean, you just don't do that. Just don't show up. For me, I don't take it to that extreme, but I don't hold my meetings. So when it's time to start, it starts. And you come in when you come in. Don't you dare interrupt the meeting and don't dare ask a question we've already covered, because there's nothing that's going to get me more angry. First, you disrespect me by being late. Now you're wasting even more time, right? Asking questions we've already covered. So, you can control that. And I certainly set an expectation that you're not going to be late. And if you are, enter into the meeting very gently. Don't make it worse.
Yeah. And honestly, I think you might have come up with a $1 million add-on to these teams and virtual meetings where it's the closed door policy. If the meeting started, they can't join it.
Yeah, I'm serious. It depends on how, every company's different, every culture, and what I got away with in the Marine Corps and what I try to do as mayor of Westfield is obviously two different things, especially if I'm meeting with residents. I'm not locking them out because I view the residents as my boss, right? I got 65,000 bosses in the city of Westfield, and I treat each one of them with the respect I would give my boss. But with my staff, I do set a pretty stern tone because they know how busy I am. I know how busy they are. And we got a lot to get done in this city, and we're not going to waste each other's time by being tardy.
That's awesome. And that's very well said. I don't want to hold you too much longer, but there were just a couple things that I wanted to say. We kind of usually end these. And again, for the listeners, I apologize for this being a little bit shorter of an episode. This is all completely on, again, scheduling. And I got a meeting thrown on my schedule last minute before we had planned this podcast out. But I want to say what works for me is the things that we've already talked about, which is getting to places early, leaving, giving myself time to think about my day. Usually when I wake up in the morning, I kind of visualize like how my day is going to go. When I wake up, I think, this is how the morning's going to go, drop the girls off. This is how my meetings are going to go. I check my calendar just to make sure that I know where everything's going to lay for the day. And obviously things change, priorities change, things pop up. But for the most part, I think that provides me a level of comfort and lessens my anxiety for the day. So those are the things that work for me to keep me in a positive mindset. And again, I might be blowing smoke up Scott over here, but living in Westfield also makes me very happy and very calm and not as anxious. I really love the fact that I got the chance to move here. My wife and I didn't plan on Westfield as like our destination, but we've gotten very, very happy being here. And now whenever we're considering the next purchase of our home or what we're doing, it's always, we're going to stay in Westfield, right? That's, when we look on Zillow, we don't look outside of there. So I just wanted to say those are the things that work for me. And for you, Scott, do you have any final thoughts of like things that work for you, for anybody that might be listening, for keeping yourself calm and collected and feeling in a positive mindset?
Yeah, just in terms of time management, the other thing that I do we didn't touch on is, hey, life happens, traffic happens. Sometimes you're just going to be late. Nobody's perfect. And I certainly don't want people to think I've never shown up late for a meeting, because I do. But I plan for it. So I have my administrative assistant, when she builds appointments for me, I want a point of contact. If I'm traveling, I want to know who my point of contact is. And if I know, I'm looking at GPS and it says you're 20 minutes out and the meeting starts in 10 minutes, I'm late. I will proactively send a message. Hey, I'm caught in traffic, or hey, I got out late of the meeting. Apologize. Here's my estimated arrival time. I'm sorry. It's a lot easier pill to swallow than you just to walk in 10, 20 minutes late. So, and it also helps take a little stress off you, because you're like, well, maybe if I speed through town, I can get there in time. Slow it down. I just send a message. I give them advance notice that something's come up, and I find it shows them a little bit more respect.
Well said. And again, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. It's been an honor to talk to you again. Again, I want to let everybody know Scott took the time during his busy schedule to meet with me, I think a year or two ago, just to talk about the current state of the political spectrum of Westfield. And he didn't need to do that. And I was somebody who was very new to learning about all that stuff, really trying to get into being a part of my community. And I just can't thank you enough for taking the time. And I feel like, even though we don't speak every day, I would still call you a friend, Scott. So I appreciate it. And thank you for taking the time.
No, I appreciate the opportunity, Justin. It's been fun.
All right. You have a good one, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.